Welcome to Relentless TV. It is just me today. Kelly's gone. We got rid of her. She's out of here I'm joking. She will be back. But we're going to change it up a little bit today. We're going to talk about sales in today's episode of Relentless TV. And you may notice that the landscape has changed a little bit for our industry in the sense that for a while, we would be able to set up a Facebook ad over a weekend and have like 25 paid trials. That doesn't happen anymore, right? Then for a while, we could get a bunch of leads from Facebook, and with just a couple text messages, they would go through and purchase a trial every single time. Well, not every single time, but a lot of the time, right? And now, as I talk to more school owners from all different organizations across the country, we're seeing a couple things happen. Number one, lead conversion is becoming more challenging. Well, why would that happen? Well, if we think about just the lead landscape in general, and let's compare right now to 2020, okay, coming out of COVID, right? 2020 coming out of COVID, there still wasn't a lot of people using text message marketing. So a lead would opt into something and they would either get a phone call or an email 90% of the time. But what's happened since then, since 2020, is almost every company on the planet is using text message marketing to follow up with their leads now. So if we go to 2020 again, you would send out a text message to follow up with a lead, and it was probably one of the only text messages they were ever getting from businesses. I compare it to the early days of email. Like your early days of email, you read every single email in your inbox because every email in your inbox came from someone that you actually knew. Now, do you read every email in your inbox? No, because you know that half of it is junk, half of it is spam. The same thing is starting to happen with your text message inbox, okay? Where we used to read every single text message we got. Now, all of a sudden, we're getting codes for different things through text message. We're getting responses for opt-ins. We're getting remarketed to through text messages. We have reminder text messages for appointments coming. So now everything's sort of moved from email inbox to text message inbox, and we're not giving it the same attention that we used to give it. So how do we get better then at converting leads? How do we get better at converting sales when they walk in the door? Well, it's really ensuring that we actually have a process installed. Okay, and here's the thing, guys. A lot of school owners will tell me that, yeah, we do have a sales process. We do have a lead follow-up process. But a system is only a system if it's being used and it's being used successfully. So if I look at your numbers and your numbers are terrible, okay, you may have a system in place, but it doesn't mean it's the right system in place. In the same breath, if you show me on paper that this is your system and it looks really good, but then I go and watch your team follow up with leads or do the sales process and they're not following it, then you still don't have a system, okay? A system is something that is being used consistently and regularly in your business, and it's delivering consistent and regular results by using that system. So we are going to talk about some things that I just want to give you guys to think about when it comes to lead follow-up and sales today. Okay, one of the most important things, and you're going to see me referencing my notes just so I don't miss on any of these, is risk reversal. Okay, the one thing that we need to think about is really trying to get inside of the head of our customers. Okay, trying to really listen in on what is that conversation that's taking place inside their head when they're on the phone with us or when they're in our school. And for most people, okay, they're thinking about the risks. Well, what happens if we try this and we don't like it? Or maybe their kid has a history of quitting sports and not following it through. Guess what? That is a fear for that parent, okay? Risk equals fear. And the more that we're able to reduce the risk, the more that we remove the fear as a result. So we're going to be talking about some different ways that we can do that, all right? And here's the thing. One of the biggest customer fears that we don't really talk about or think about that much is that they're actually going to spend money and get zero results out of it. Now it's just wasted money. And that is more of a pain to them than doing nothing at all. Is, well, what if I waste money? If I do nothing at all, I get to stay comfortable. I don't have to worry about that risk. I don't have that fear of losing out. So we're going to talk about sort of how we can change some of our language, change some of our wording that we can really use to help overcome objections that we can use to push through the sale. Now, if we think about what are some of the biggest risks or fears or excuses that our customers have when we talk to them. And as we're thinking about these things, I know you're thinking time, I know you're thinking money. The one that doesn't really come out too much is emotion. Emotion is number one, an absolute objection that can come up because what they're feeling in that moment can stop them from buying. Okay, so we have to think about emotions as well. And the risk of changing for most people is too much pain. Okay, so here's what I mean. If they come in with a limiting belief, and we know that limiting beliefs are really just excuses, okay? But if they come in with a limiting belief, okay, it is them changing to remove that limiting belief is more of a risk and more fearful to them than just staying the same. Okay, and how do we know this? How many people do you know are working in a job and have been working in a job for a long time that they absolutely hate? Why do they keep working in the job if they absolutely hate it? Well, it's because the fear of the unknown, if I step away from this job, is more painful to them than to just come in every day and hate their job and put up with that than actually leave. Because if they leave, they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know what the next step is. Okay, us as entrepreneurs, we're a little bit more risky in some of the choices that we make than the average person. Okay, but knowing that we have people that stay in a job they can't stand for a long period of time, for a majority of their life, shows us that just getting them to even change their mindset or change their limiting belief or change how they think about the excuses they're making for themselves is going to be a challenge in that self. But there's ways that we can go about doing this where we're going to get to at the end of this. Okay, what we need to expose is that the real risk is in not actually signing up. The real risk is in not actually joining your martial arts school, not actually purchasing the trial. That is the real risk. So how do we make that the risk, and how do we reframe that as a risk compared to whatever risk or fear they're having in their head when they come to us? For us, what I like to do is I always focus on trying to get a deep understanding of their pain point first thing on the phone or first thing in person, okay? The goal of a lot of us when we call leads is like, we want to get a trial. That cannot be the main goal, all right? There's levels to this. The main goal for me, and why I've always been really good at sales and converting people, is my main goal, number one, is to find out about them and find out why they even made the decision to ask about information, why they even made the decision to walk in the door. There was some pain that was a big enough pain that actually made them physically pick up the phone and actually made them physically show up to my school. So I need to find out what that pain is, because I know if I can get the prospect, the lead, the person walking in the door to vocalize that pain, the vocalization of that pain ties in emotion to that pain. Okay, so we get them to actually point it out. Now, then we have to focus on reducing the risk and showing them that, hey, if you don't join this program, you're gonna be dealing with that pain still. And what's gonna happen 12 months from now when that pain has not gotten any better, okay? Or maybe when that pain has actually accelerated and gotten worse because you didn't join our program, okay? So a couple of things I like to do. Number one, we just ask, hey, what made you decide to bring your son in today for martial art classes? Or what made you decide to look into martial arts for your child, okay? Or for yourself, whatever it is. They're gonna give you a couple different responses. Number one is the surface level response. That's when they're like, oh, we're just looking for an activity, or we're just looking for something to keep him busy, or like, I like watching UFC, so I thought it'd be cool to try this. Those are all surface level, okay? They're just saying the first thing that pops to their head, or they're saying what they think they want you to hear because maybe they're not comfortable enough to go to the actual pain point. We need to make them comfortable enough, right? Okay, so we get that surface level answer. Okay, so usually what I do is I always repeat back what they said to me. So if they're like, oh, you know, we have a friend doing it and we just heard great things about it and thought we'd come try it out. Still surface level, right? Okay, so you heard about this from a friend. Was it a friend that's currently training with us, or is it a friend that trains somewhere else? Oh, it's a friend that trains somewhere else. Okay, really cool. Well, I want to let you know, if you look out on our mat right now, you can see a whole bunch of kids out there training, and their parents all brought them here for very specific reasons. We have some kids out on that mat because they were shy and they weren't very outgoing and social with other kids. But when you look at them on our mat, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference now because of the strides that they've made. We have some kids out there because their parents wanted them to develop better focus and better listening skills at home, so mom and dad wouldn't have to repeat themselves so many times. And then we have other kids out here just because their mom and dad want them to be athletes and be able to protect themselves if they're ever in a dangerous situation. Is there anything like that that really motivated you guys to come in today? Now we start to give them some examples of like, hey, A, B, C. Okay, it's multiple choice now. Which one of these resonates with you? Okay, and then from there, they're gonna say, you know what? Actually, I would really love it if it improved his focus. I didn't even know it helped with that. And I just think that he is a kid that needs that direction because he's a little bit all over the place. Do we end the conversation there? No, we keep digging. All right, so if I'm understanding right, you would love this to really accelerate his focus. Now, in what areas of his life right now do you really think he needs to improve on his focus? Is it at home with you? Is it at school? Is it when he's playing other sports? Can you talk to me a little bit about that? And then now we're starting to really get down to specific situations that they're seeing this pain point show up in. So they might say something like, well, actually, you know what it is at school? Sometimes he has, one of his friends talks to him when the teacher's talking, and then he gets distracted and he gets in trouble because of it. And we are starting to see it begin to affect his grades. All right, so definitely at school we need to help him with, right? So one of our goals and one of the things that these parents absolutely love about our program is that not only do we teach them how to focus better when they're here training, but we actually not only teach them how to take that home with them into school, but we also have different challenges that we have them run through as part of our character development program, where they're actually going to be showing us in action, whether it's at school or at home or in the community, different ways that they're actively working on improving their focus. Does that sound like something that would help Nathan or Jonathan, whoever this kid is, Nathan with his focus at school? Oh, it would? Excellent. Now, I just also want to let you know that you and I, we're going to be a partner from here on out. So if your child's struggling with focus, whether it's another behavior issue, I want you to always bring these things to me and feel comfortable doing so. So that way we can team up together to really help your son become the best version of himself. And I know that's going to start with focus today. And what I would like you to do is just take a second and let's just fast forward 12 months from now. We're 12 months in the future. Your child's been in our program. They've been consistent with their training. Our instructors and coaches have really been adamantly working with him on improving his focus to the point where you see him dialed in. He can get into his zone of genius whenever he wants. If we're able to fulfill that part of our promise, what positive changes are you going to see in your son 12 months from now? And now they start to visualize where their son's going to be. They start to visualize the changes that they're seeing in their child. And as a result, an emotional response is created while they're vocalizing this. And you guys notice, I keep coming back to this theme. We need to get them to vocalize the pain. We also need to get them to vocalize and visualize the transformation, okay? Whenever they vocalize those things, that's when the emotion starts to come out in it, okay? We want them to feel the emotion of pain because they want their child to get better. They see them struggling with something. But we also want them to get that proud mom or proud dad emotion coming out of them when they're visualizing the change and transformation that's going to take place in their child. Okay, so basically what we did is, let's break this down psychologically for a second. They came in, what was their risk? What was their fear? They didn't even know coming in, or maybe they knew and didn't want to share it. Okay, but the fear that they're coming in with is like focus, okay? Is this going to help them with this focus? Is it going to get better? So that's the first thing that I have to show them, like, hey, good job giving us your child because we're going to make sure that we take care of him and help him get to this point, so much so that I actually want you to be able to picture 12 months from now what it's going to look like. Okay, so we're taking sort of that pain point and we're showing them what benefit in our program is going to actually help solve that pain point. And then, hey, picture him 12 months from now. And at the same time, what did we just do? We also future pace them that, hey, your child's going to be training here 12 months from now. And that's totally common for all of our students to be here at least 12 months in their training without me actually having to go forward and say it. So we're sort of planting these little seeds of like, hey, yes, we're going to solve your pain points, but also this is how it works here. This is what our culture is here as we go through this conversation. Now, if we start talking about sort of the three elements of risk that we talked about earlier, which is time, money, emotion. Okay, and we think about time. Time is pretty relative, right? For example, 10 minutes of small talk with someone that I don't know feels like 50 hours and I hate my life. Okay, small talk with strangers for me is like one of my least favorite things to do. I'd rather have deep, meaningful connections with people. Jotty tension. Should we put it on speakerphone? We won't put it on speakerphone. So 10 minutes of small talk, like punch me in the face now. I'd rather take a punch in the face than 10 minutes of small talk. 10 minutes of wrestling with my kids, I could wrestle with my kids for hours, right? So I don't have enough time is relative. They have time for the things that they want to do. They don't have time for the painful things, right? So part of our goals in the sales process is to help them understand that this isn't going to be one of those painful things. Okay, but right now, if we think about it, they have to fit it in their busy schedule with their kids. They have to actually make the drive to the facility. They have to ensure that their kids coming consistently. They have to ensure that they're keeping up with all the different things that's happening within our martial arts school. It could look like a lot of pain to be able to do this. So we have to make sure that they understand this is going to be an easy process, that we're going to be paired up with them. We're going to be part of the village that's raising their kids, okay? One of my objection overcomes that I've always been taught for the time thing is, number one, first of all, get them to commit to 2 times per week before you actually do it at the end of the class in the sales process. Because if you show them the schedule right at the front desk and say, hey, our best students come 2 to 3 times per week. Do you see 2 days on this schedule that would work best for you? They say yes. Don't take that as the answer. Awesome. Which 2 days are you thinking right now? And then I'll just highlight and circle those 2 days on the schedule. Boom. Time's not an issue for them anymore because they just committed to 2 days before we even got to the sale. But when they do say like, hey, I don't have enough time, I always sort of explain it from my viewpoint. You know what? I used to think that same thing too. I was like, man, I don't have time for anything. But then I figured out time is very relative. And I didn't have time for the things that I didn't want to make time for, because it was either outside my comfort zone or it was something new or I was just unsure about it. And I just want to make sure that that's not something happening with you, because I know how powerful this program can be for your child. I know that it's going to help him to improve his focus. I know that you're going to see the grades improve as a result. And with me, you, and his teacher working together, there's no way that your child is going to fail. He's got 3 rock stars in his corner helping to push him towards his goals. And if we think about it, they're 2 45-minute classes a week. That's an hour and a half of your week. Okay. And if we think that there's 24 hours in a day, times that by 7, it is less than 1% of your week. So my question for you is, would you be willing to commit less than 1% of your week getting your child here to make sure that we can really work together on helping him to overcome his challenges with focus and really get him to the next level? So he's set up not only for success right now in school, but for success in life. So in the future, when he's working his job for his career, that focus he learned in martial arts is still there. He's still able to dial in. He's able to be more productive than anyone else at the company because of what he's learning now at this young age. Do you feel like you'd be able to make time for that? See how we reframe that? It's like, hey, it's less than 1% of your week. This is to better your son, not just for grades, but for the future, for his entire life. And now we made it a much more important thing. Okay, it's not just focus for grades anymore, it's focus for the future, okay? And then we also reframed how they're thinking about time. And I didn't do it just by saying, here's what I don't want to do. Hey, pull up your phone and check your screen time. I guarantee you have time. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do a gotcha. Hey, you know what? I used to think that way too, all right? I'm actually sort of agreeing with their way of thinking at the beginning. I used to do that too, all right? But here's what I found. And it's just giving it from my perspective instead of talking down to them, instead of trying to call them out on using that as an excuse. We're just sort of finessing the way that we're talking about it, right? So I think time is the easiest one to overcome, in my opinion, with what we do. Because most of you guys, it is 2 times per week for 45 minutes. It's a very small chunk of their time throughout the week. And the benefit that they get as a result is 10 times greater. But how well are we at communicating that and being able to communicate that to the person coming in through the door? Okay, the other one, and this is one that Jason Fladlian came up with that he uses pretty consistently. So this isn't mine, but for time. And if you don't know who he is, come see him at the summit. He is one of my favorite speakers. I've learned so much on sales from him. He says, let me ask you a question. Is there something that you're doing right now in your life that takes a bunch of time, but you know it's not really worth doing? So you get them to start thinking about, hey, is there something? Well, yeah, like a lot of things. I'm sure I'm scrolling on my phone too much. If they don't say anything, you give them examples, just like we did earlier, trying to find out their pain point. Well, not really. Well, that's great then. You're being super efficient with your time. I know sometimes when I ask people, they're like, you know, I probably scroll on Instagram too much, or I'm probably on TikTok a little bit too much, or you know what, I probably watch TV too much or binge watch too much, anything like that. Like, you give them some ideas, give them the multiple choice test, because I guarantee everyone, if they're being honest with themselves, scrolls too much, spends too much time on their phone or whatever it is. Okay, so I can come back to that. Like, hey, I knew there was something. Thank you for being so honest with me. I do the same thing. I probably scroll too much too. So if we think about how much time is being allocated towards that right now, do you feel that if we're able to repurpose that time and use it for something beneficial and productive that's going to help set up your child for a successful future, would that make sense to do that? I'm not talking down to them, just asking questions, just having a conversation, right? Okay. And I sort of think of it like this, like, we're going to take that time that you feel like you're wasting and turn it into productive time for your child to benefit from. What parent is going to see that as a bad thing? Okay, and a couple of things to think about is, how do we get a better result and free up time for this person if time is one of their things? And this is just in general about your program. If we think about the longer it takes for them to see results, the quicker the road to failure is, okay? So one of the things I want to really challenge you guys to do is think about, how can we get our new members or people walking in the door instant wins? How can we get them to see wins right away? So a couple of things that we do is, number one, we do the board break at the first class and they get their belt at the end. That is a win for the kid. That's a win for the parent. If we think about breaking a board, even those thin boards, okay, that can be intimidating for a kid. They may not be confident in themselves, but all of us have seen the confidence on that kid's face after they break the board, where the kid is smiling and feels like he just like conquered the world. That's what we want, okay? The parents noticing that win, the kids noticing that win. The second thing that we do with our trial membership is we do a 21-day challenge, okay? And it's not like the gym launch 21-day challenge, like where you get your money back, no. Basically what it is when they come in on the first day, we give them a little like magazine booklet thing, and there's 2 challenges a week on there. I think first week is like things that have to do with focus, second week is respect, and I think third is discipline, something like that, okay? And basically our goal is to get them each week doing those challenges, so that way the moms are seeing the wins at home. Like, one of the challenges, clean your room without your parents asking you to. That is a win. If that child, his first week there, goes home and cleans his room without mom or dad asking him to, you think the parent's going to see that as a win? Absolutely. That parent's been yelling at that kid 80 times in a row to clean his room, going in and checking on him. The kid's playing in there instead of cleaning and getting ready to pull their hair out. And 1 week in karate from a $21 trial got their kid to clean the room the first time. We want to stack those wins as quickly as possible, okay? So for us, we do it in the form of character development wins, because if we think about it, it's still solving the pain point of why mom brought them to us in the first place. Mom's seen those wins. The kid has seen the positive response from mom or dad. And then at the same time, he's having a blast while he's taking classes as well. All right, so we are gonna move on to money. If money is an objection, it's one of 2 things. You have a selling problem, and it also could just be a targeting problem, not bringing in the right clientele. I will say this, in most cases, even in my own school, when I go and audit, if the money objection is becoming a thing, 99% of the time it is the process. It is the selling process or the person doing the selling. Either they're not trained enough, or the process isn't there, or they're missing important elements of it, okay? So if money is an objection that keeps coming up, okay, you have an issue with your selling system. They're not seeing the value. Okay, when anyone tells me at the sale that it's too much money or I can't afford it, to me, that is instantly translated in my brain to, I didn't do a great job communicating the value to them. Okay, if they're saying it's too expensive, it means that they're not seeing the value in the program, and that's either because our program's not valuable, or it's because me or my team didn't do a great job communicating the value to that person. The other part of it is, how do we mitigate the money risk? Okay, because they're thinking if it's a money objection, that either the price doesn't match what they're getting in return, or, well, what happens if I spend this money and the results aren't there? What happens if I don't actually get it? Because if we think about it, how many people have bought a piece of exercise equipment that turned into a clothes hanger later? Okay, or they got shoved in the closet somewhere. All of us have, myself included, right? All of us, so now when new fitness stuff comes out, we're probably a little bit more hesitant to buy it because we still remember our treadmill that is now a clothes hanger that's sitting in the basement of our house, right? And we didn't use that thing. Or I'm looking at it and my wife has reminded me, Why would you buy that? Because the last one is still sitting in the basement with clothes all over it, right? So same concept here. Every single person that walks into school has bought something before somewhere else that they felt like it was a complete waste of money. Okay, so if their worry is that it's a waste of money, how do we overcome that? Well, you have to give them some sort of guarantee to mitigate that risk. Some people in our industry actually hate money-back guarantees, and you may be one of those people that hate money-back guarantees. The only reason you should hate a money-back guarantee is if you have to keep giving people's money back because your program is not meeting the promises that you are telling them, all right? We do a 30-day money-back guarantee for our memberships, and I think in the last 2 years, we had one person use it. We also do a money-back guarantee for every single trial membership we sell. And again, I think maybe one a year gets brought back of someone that actually wants their money back on those things. We're changing it though. We're actually getting ready to test something new. So I don't have data on this. I can't tell you if it kicked butt or not. But what we're gonna do now is on our trials, if you purchase a trial, you go to 2 classes every week of the trial, and you still don't like it and you want your money back, not only will we give you your money back, but I'm also gonna pay you for your time as well and give you an extra $25. That's how confident we are in the program. So if you buy a 21-day trial from us and you don't like it, we're gonna refund you and we're also gonna pay you for your time. Think about the confidence that comes off in our program when we say that, okay? And then think about how hard it is for it to be a price objection again when you just said, hey, not only will I refund you, but I'm gonna pay you for your time. Sort of hard to argue that, even if you can't afford it. And then same thing is true for our martial arts program, okay? So we're gonna be doing a very similar guarantee on that where, hey, you enroll today, and let's say 30 days from now, you're like, it's not for me, I don't want it. Cool, it happens sometimes, right? So if that's you, number one, I'm gonna refund you what you paid us, and I'm gonna let you keep your uniform and your boxing gloves. All right, so you get to keep all of that. In addition, I'm gonna give you an extra $50 just to pay you for your time. Because if we didn't fulfill our part, that tells me that we wasted your time, and I'm gonna pay you back for your time. So, picture this, let's come full circle. Just got doing the pitch. Like, you know, I like it, but it's a little out of our budget. Hey, I totally understand. I'm glad that you guys are watching your budget. And one of the things that I've always found with my kids is there's some things that I know is such a good thing for them that's gonna help set them up for future success when they're older in life, that I have to look at it as an investment in their future. And I want you to be able to do the same thing. I want you to have the same confidence in our program that I have in our program from seeing hundreds of kids go through it and come out transformed and becoming the best version of themselves. So here's what I'm willing to do. If you sign up today, either for 2 times or 3 times per week, you pick that, right? But sign up today, and what I'll do is in 30 days, if you come back to me and you're like, Adam, like I tried it, I don't like it, it's not for us, here's what I'm gonna do. Number 1, I'm gonna give you your money back for the month that you paid for. Number 2, I'm not even gonna ask for the gloves and the uniform back, you're gonna keep that. And number 3, I'm gonna pay you $50 for wasting your time for the month. For every 45 minutes you're here for your child's class. I'm doing this, Jeremy, Samantha, whoever you're talking to, I'm doing this, Jeremy, because I have the confidence in our program that you're gonna see drastic positive changes in your son's life. And I am only offering this to you because of that confidence and because I want you to be able to say yes with the same confidence that I have in this program. Does that sound fair? That's it. But Adam, what if they come back and they're like, at 30 days, they're like, hey, I want my money back. Well, here's the thing. There's a couple things that we require of them. So when they enroll, we say, all right, now, the only requirements of this is you actually have to do it, okay? So you can't just like do one class and be like, oh, I didn't get any results. Like, we want to see the full 30 days, you giving it your all. So in order to get the refund and the money for your time, for the next 30 days, you have to be consistently coming 2 times per week, okay? In addition to that, you have to finish the 21-day challenge that we have where you're doing those 2 missions each week, okay? It's not a lot, okay? And in fact, we're only asking you to do what you would already be doing anyway when you become a student, which is come 2 times per week and do the 2 challenges every week. So it's just the normal stuff, but I just like to be very, very clear on what we require so that way you understand how to fully participate in this and get the most out of it. Sound fair? Awesome. Okay, so think about what we just said there, right? Why did we give them the requirements? Because number one, we want to be clear that they actually do it, because we know if they only come once, they're not going to see any results and they're going to ask for their money back. So they have to come 2 times per week. And then for us, they have to complete the missions, the 2 missions each week for the first 3 weeks. They do both those things, then they come back and ask for their money. It's a us thing. We didn't do a good enough job making the classes fun and exciting, making connections with them and all of that. And that's feedback to us that we need to do better at our job if we're getting people coming back and asking for that, right? Now, on the other hand, I know that once people get in our program and they're attending consistently for a month, that they're gonna freaking love it and wanna stay with it no matter what. So if I have to pay even 1 refund out of every 10, I know that I probably enrolled 20 to 30% more people than I would have enrolled anyway. And the math is going to work itself out in the long run, no matter what. But think about how easy we just made it to remove the money objection. All right. If someone offered me that, where they're like, hey, I'm so confident you're going to like it that number one, you come back in 30 days and say you hate it, I'll give you your money back. It's already pretty good. I'm going to let you keep all your gear. You don't even have to return it at the end of the 30 days. All right, well, I don't have to lose that. And I'm going to pay you money for your time if you still don't like it after 30 days. There's no risk. All the risk is gone on that. There's no more financial risk at all with what we just talked about. So again, disclaimer on that whole thing. This is something new we're doing. Okay, I don't have data to show you that this works fantastic for martial arts yet. I have seen this work in other industries. Okay, Jason Fladlian, who is going to be at the summit, taught me most of these objection overcomes, and he's done them and has generated over $100 million in sales at least. It's probably double that at this point, but he's done it at a massive scale with like 1,000 people at a time, doing this in big groups even, okay? So he knows what he's talking about. So we talked about the money one. Let's also, let's see, I did that already. I'm just making sure I'm not missing anything. Make sure your conditions are easy to explain. I want to touch on that real quick. So I explain the conditions 2 times per week, and then you're doing the missions, okay? And it's asking you to do things that you're already doing. It needs to be simple like that. We don't want it where it's like this giant sweepstakes, and then you have this much disclaimers at the bottom of like, you got to do 2 times a week, you got to practice at home like 3 times per week. You got to text me every time that you're like, too much crap. Like, make it really simple to understand. We want them to understand that this is just the normal stuff you'd be doing anyway if you were already in our program. So don't try and be crazy. I know some of you owners are going to be really controlling and so fearful about people asking for refunds that you're going to be like, let's add 6 more things that they need to do. You can call it the success guarantee. You can call it whatever you want, but also brand whatever that money back guarantee is. I don't like just calling it a money back guarantee. Okay. You could call it the like student success guarantee. Like, we're so confident you're going to be successful, we guarantee it by doing X, Y, Z. And then on the contract, you just need something that says, or on like your little card that you give them, whatever way you want to give it to them, we give it to them as a card, but something that says, I guarantee you'll get the best training experience and support from Move Martial Arts to aid you in helping your child to improve, keep it blank so you can write it there, and confidence by, and then we put the date for the 30 days on there. Okay, so that way they know. And then it says, if that doesn't happen, I will personally refund your money that you spent for your tuition, allow you to keep your boxing gloves, shirt, shorts, whatever, and pay you $50 for your time. Okay, we will do all the work, and we're going to pay you for your time. Okay. If you want to take this, I'm not going to share that yet. I'm going to leave that part for mastermind people. They'll get the little extra there. So super easy on those 2 sides. We talked about emotions sort of sprinkled out throughout, so I'm not going to touch on that so much. But what I really want you guys to focus on the sales side is, number one, do you have a system? And if you don't have a system, use the sales success system. It has been proven in well over 100 martial arts schools across the country to be at the 80-85% conversion rate consistently if you follow it, if you do what's in there. But you have to actually follow it. If you're like, oh, I like this little piece, I'm going to take that piece, and then you don't do the rest, it's a system. You have to do the whole thing. It would be like if I gave you a box of Legos and you open it and you dumped out all the bags and you're like, well, I want to build this, but I only like bag number 1. And I sort of like bag number 3 from this set, and I'll use bag number 4 from this set. It's not going to work. You're just like pulling from different things, putting it together. It's not going to look like the final product, okay? And I get school owners all the time that are like, Adam, I'm doing a sales system, but I'm not closing at 85% like you guys are. What am I missing? And then I'm like, are you doing this part of the sales system? And they're like, no. And I'm like, what about this part? And they're like, well, we switched it to do this instead. And I'm like, well, it's because you're not using that same system I'm using. You're not going to get the same results. If you want to get the same results as us, use the same system as us. That's all you need to do. Okay. If you want to have like a old school like John Chung flying sidekick that's perfect, like go talk to John Chung about how to train to get a flying sidekick like that. I guarantee yours will start to get closer to his. All right. Use the system. Use it and follow it to a T. I guarantee it'll make training your people easier. It'll systemize everything for you. It's literally done for you. The SOPs, everything. Just grab it, train, install, supervise after you install, kick butt with it. All right, so I hope today got you guys to think about sales a little bit differently. I hope we gave you guys some good ideas on how you guys can mitigate or reverse risk in your sales process. And as always, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at support@relentlessmediaagency.com. And we will see you guys next week on the next episode of Relentless TV.